The world of international relations is rarely static, but today, on October 1st, 2025, we are witnessing a tectonic shift. South Korea and China have just announced a landmark economic agreement, a move that sends powerful tremors across the global landscape. This is not just another trade deal. It is a comprehensive pact designed to deeply integrate their supply chains, semiconductors, and advanced manufacturing. The agreement aims to create a more resilient and collaborative economic ecosystem between two of Asia's most formidable industrial powerhouses. At its core are preferential trade terms, lower tariffs, and a framework for joint research and development. This pact is far more than a simple economic handshake. It is a profound geopolitical statement. To understand this pact, you must first understand the powerful motivations driving both Seoul and Beijing. For China, the calculus is clear and urgent. The country faces unprecedented economic pressure from the United States, export controls, especially on advanced semiconductors, and the equipment to make them. Beijing sees this as an existential threat to its development and national security. By partnering with South Korea, a global chip leader, China gains a vital lifeline to navigate restrictions and keep climbing the tech ladder. For South Korea, motivations are more complex: economic pragmatism and strategic anxiety. Korean champions like Samsung and SK Hynix have massive investments in markets in China, yet face tightening US rules. They're caught in the crossfire. This pact is a bid to de-risk their future without abandoning the US alliance. Both sides want stability. They see a resilient regional bloc as a buffer against outside political pressures. For Beijing, it's a diplomatic win. For Seoul, it's more control over its economic destiny, an assertion of middle power agency. Ultimately, China needs to break tech containment. Korea needs to shield its economy. The pact offers both a path, intensely pragmatic, not ideological. At the absolute center lies the semiconductor, the lifeblood of the modern world, powering smartphones, cars, and the advanced AI systems that will define the future. The United States identified chips as the critical choke point to slow China's ascent by curbing access to leading-edge chips and tools. This created an urgent need in China to secure its chip supply, precisely what this pact targets. It reportedly enables Korean firms to continue and even expand China operations, potentially with guarantees against external interference. It alludes to joint R&D on next-gen memory and some legacy node logic, immensely valuable know-how for Beijing. For Seoul, it's a high-stakes gamble to protect massive mainland fabs producing critical global memory supply. But limits remain. Korea is unlikely to transfer US-dependent cutting-edge tech. Expect focus on legacy nodes and memory, less restricted yet vital. Even so, cooperation helps China fill gaps and build self-reliance, gradually chipping away at US containment. A key, unspoken objective is to create pathways around the US wall of sanctions and export controls. Washington's strategy hinges on allied cooperation. A Seoul-Beijing pact is the most significant crack yet. It's a calculated effort to build a system less susceptible to American legal reach. Mechanisms may include joint ventures or special zones where rules can be interpreted more flexibly. Focus on just below cutting-edge technologies, legacy nodes, outside the most restrictive thresholds. Facilitating flows of Korean engineers transfers practical knowledge that's harder to regulate than hardware. They may test the limits of US extraterritorial claims over gear with even small US origin components. Expect efforts to develop components deliberately free of US technology, difficult and costly, but feasible. China's market scale exerts gravity. For Korean firms, losing China can be costlier than compliance with US demands. Seoul's deal gives political cover, engagement with China as national economic security, not defiance of an ally. This isn't just regional, it can redraw the map of global supply chains. A system built for hyper-efficiency proved fragile, reshoring and friendshoring rose. This pact moves the other way. It deepens nearshoring between two economic giants, building a robust, self-contained East Asian manufacturing hub. Korean-designed chips, made in China with Chinese inputs, assembled for Asia and beyond, a powerful, independent ecosystem. We could see bifurcated standards, US-led versus China-centric, forcing others to choose. Multinationals must reassess, keep sourcing from the bloc and risk shocks, or rebuild alternatives in India, Vietnam, Mexico. Winners may include logistics, commodity suppliers, and alternative hub manufacturers as investment surges. We're moving from one integrated economy to competing blocs. Ripples will hit every market for years. The efficiency era is over. Geopolitical risk now leads supply chain strategy. In Washington, this lands like an earthquake, demanding immediate response. U.S. strategy relies on a concert of allied tech democracies. A treaty ally stepping out of line is a setback. Expect high-level delegations to Seoul to seek clarity and to apply pressure. A Trump administration would likely threaten punitive measures, FTA review, new tariffs, and waivers for Korean fabs in China under scrutiny. Even alliance-focused teams must defend the credibility of tech denial strategy. Tools: stricter enforcement on Korean firms, plus incentives, greater tech access and investment if Seoul trims the Pact's riskiest parts. Japan may tighten with the US. Southeast Asia faces sharper pressure to choose. The Pact destabilizes regional security architecture, forcing every player to recalculate. Washington must signal consequences, or risk others cutting side deals with Beijing. Analysts call this a pivotal moment. Dr. Evelyn Reed of the Council on Foreign Relations: this is the most significant challenge yet to U.S. technological containment. Economic gravity rivals security alliances. From business leaders, cautious alarm at a bifurcated market. Marcus Thorne, Global Commerce Initiative: firms must plan China-compliant and U.S.-compliant supply chains, with higher cost and complexity. The era of seamless global operations is ending. Retiner General Robert McCoy. Beijing scored a strategic win, wedging a key U.S. ally and chipping at America's alliance foundation. Message to the region: China offers economic reliability. The U.S. brings political swings. Washington must counter it. Professor Kim Ji-soo, SNU. Do not overstate it. Seoul isn't abandoning the U.S. alliance. This is economic breathing room. If sharing stays to less sensitive tech and coordination on security continues, the alliance can weather the stress test. Expect significant market volatility. U.S. chip equipment makers may drop. Korean giants could bump on secured China ops. Select Chinese tech may rally on eased bottlenecks. Currencies could see KRW and CNY firming versus the dollar. Short-term, frantic reevaluation, announcements to diversify and accelerate alternative hubs. Contingency plans become active strategies. Long-term, a stronger East Asian bloc, partial insulation from the West, gradual erosion of dollar dominance in regional trade. Parallel tech ecosystems mean less efficiency, more friction. Costs rise across supply chains. Products may draw from narrower, pricier supplier pools within blocs, raising prices and reducing choice for consumers worldwide. As dust settles, investors, policymakers, and citizens must watch key indicators. First, U.S. response. Targeted sanctions on Korean firms, or a negotiated path. The tone will decide if this stays manageable or escalates. Second, implementation. What tech is shared? How strong is IP protection? Is U.S. origin tech firewalled or leaking? Watch corporate disclosures and satellite imagery. If limited to older memory and materials, fallout is contained. Advanced logic or processes mean severe conflict with U.S. interests. Third, others' reactions. Will Japan align tighter with the U.S.? Will Europe, especially Germany, hedge? EU silence or sympathy for Seoul signals Western fragmentation. Finally, track capital flows and new factories, Mexico, India, or the China-Korea bloc. Investment patterns reveal the new economic map. The Korea-China Pact is not an endpoint. It's the starting gun for a new race to build 21st century supply chains and alliances. The road ahead is complex and demands vigilance.